Admiral Vexthor stood on the command deck of the Crimson Dominance, his three eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he surveyed the holographic display. Before him floated the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star, Earth, the humans called it. His mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among the Crotic species. One fleet, he repeated the words of the human transmission, his translator rendering them in mocking tones. They think one fleet can stop the entire Crotic armada. His second-in-command, Commander Yilsek, shifted nervously. Admiral, our intelligence suggests the humans are unusually resourceful. Perhaps we should... Resourceful? Vexthor's laugh was a harsh, chittering sound. They've barely left their own star system. They have no shield technology. Their weapons are primitive chemical propellants and early energy systems. We have conquered 47 species across the galaxy. The humans will fall in less than a solar rotation. The Crotic armada consisted of 300 warships, each the size of a small city. For 2 months, they had been broadcasting their intentions across all frequencies: surrender or be destroyed. The human response had been consistent and infuriating. A single fleet of 37 ships had positioned itself between Earth and the armada. 37 ships against 300. The mathematics were laughable. Begin the assault, Vexthor commanded. Let us show these primitives the price of defiance. The armada surged forward, their plasma cannons charging, their void missiles armed with antimatter warheads. The human fleet held position, a pathetically small wall of metal and determination. Then everything went wrong. The first indication was when the lead Crotic destroyer simply vanished. Not destroyed, vanished. One moment it existed on all sensors, the next moment there was nothing but empty space. Report, Vexthor barked. Unknown weapon, Admiral. No energy signature, no projectile detected. The destroyer is just gone. Before anyone could respond, 7 more ships disappeared in rapid succession. Panic rippled through the armada's communications channels. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Identify the weapon, and the human fleet hadn't moved. They hadn't fired a single visible shot. Yet Crotic vessels were disappearing like insects caught in an invisible flame. Admiral, we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies, the sensor officer reported, his voice cracking with fear. The humans, they're manipulating space-time itself. Vexthor's eyes widened in horror. Space-time manipulation was theoretical technology, something only the most ancient species had even conceptualized. The humans couldn't possibly. Another 20 ships vanished, crushed into singularities smaller than atoms. Return fire. All vessels, maximum bombardment. The Crotic armada unleashed hell itself. Plasma torrents that could vaporize continents. Antimatter missiles that could crack planets. Energy beams that had obliterated entire fleets in previous campaigns. The human ships shimmered and the attacks passed through them as if they weren't there. Impossible, Vexthor whispered. Quantum phasing? No species has achieved stable quantum phasing. Commander Yilsek was clutching his console, his chitinous hands trembling. Admiral, I recommend immediate retreat. We've lost 60 ships in under 5 minutes. Pride warred with survival instinct in Vexthor's mind. Retreat was unthinkable. The Crotic had never retreated, but neither had the Crotic ever faced an enemy like this. A new transmission crackled through the command deck. A human face appeared on the screen. Female, with those strange bilateral eyes and that unsettling flexible skin that showed too much emotion. Crotic Armada, this is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You were warned. One fleet was all we needed. You came to our home. You threatened our families. Did you really think we'd greet you with primitive weapons? Vexthor found his voice. What are you? Admiral Chen's expression was cold, harder than the void itself. We're humans. We split the atom before we left our planet. We've been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what else was out there. You're not the first to underestimate us. You're just the first to face the consequences. Another wave of ships disappeared. The Armada was breaking formation, vessels fleeing in all directions. Your 47 conquered species, Chen continued, didn't have centuries of science fiction to imagine every possible threat. They didn't grow up with nuclear extinction hanging over their heads, learning to weaponize everything from germs to gravity. They didn't spend generations preparing for war against unknown enemies. Vexthor slammed his appendage on the console. All ships full retreat. Abandon the offensive. Too late, Chen said softly. You broadcast your intentions for 2 months. You gave us time to prepare, to position our real weapons. Tell me, Admiral, did you notice that your ships are now surrounded? The holographic display updated. Thousands of new contacts appeared, not ships but weapons platforms. Tiny, nearly invisible, scattered throughout the space around the Armada. They had been there all along, invisible to Kratic sensors, waiting. We could have destroyed you the moment you entered our system, Chen said. But we wanted to send a message. To you, to anyone else watching. Humanity doesn't start fights. The weapons platforms began to glow, but we sure as hell finished them. Vexthor barely had time to think his final thought, that perhaps, in the vast and ancient galaxy, there were young species that were not prey but predators, species that had sharpened themselves on their own mortality until they became something far more dangerous than conquerors. They had learned about humans, but they had learned too late. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Of 300 Kratic warships, 13 survived to limp home and tell the tale. The human fleet never moved from its position. It never needed to. Across the galaxy, species who had been watching the confrontation suddenly reassessed their threat databases. The humans, it turned out, were not primitives to be conquered. They were something far worse. They were survivors, and survivors were always the most dangerous prey to hunt. The end.